Hi everybody, Al Bernstein here with another one of my quick hits videos. And on this one, I'm going to talk about the fight that transpired this past weekend, in which Gennady Golovkin beat David Lemieux. It was a middleweight title bout in which both men were putting titles up. And it was held in Madison Square Garden in front of a packed house and was on pay-per-view as well. It was kind of Gennady Golovkin's coming out party in terms of pay-per-view, his first pay-per-view fight that he had headlined. And going into this fight, the theory was that David Lemieux, who is a hard-punching, hell-bent for leather kind of fighter who has big power, would bring out the best in Golovkin and would also engage him in what could be a wild affair. Well, it didn't quite turn out that way, but it did show us the excellence of Gennady Golovkin again. Early in the fight and throughout the fight, Golovkin was able to use his jab, his left hook, very effectively against David Lemieux. And finally, as the fight wore on, the power that he used, he would score a knockdown with a body blow and then ultimately would stop David Lemieux. And Gennady Golovkin, ever the gallant figure in the ring, would win when the referee stopped the fight. Now, this performance by Gennady Golovkin, in my opinion, was a beautiful technical performance. He negated everything that David Lemieux wanted to do. One of the hopes from the fan standpoint moving into this fight was that David Lemieux, who is a powerful puncher and attacks from various angles, and he's not a classic boxer puncher by any stretch, that somehow that would disrupt Golovkin a little bit, and he would at least be able to land some punches to test what we believe is a very sturdy chin of Golovkin. He wasn't able to do that, and we have to give Golovkin credit for that. He is some people don't give him all the credit that he deserves in terms of his technique and his ability as a boxer puncher. This guy knows how to fight. He really does. And his use of the jab early in this bout was spectacular. I mean, because his jab is not just a scoring jab. It's not just a let me keep you off balance jab. It's a punishing jab. Like the jab that George Foreman had in his later years as a pro when he came back out of retirement. That left jab was just punishing. So he performed extraordinarily well. David Lemieux was not able to get much done offensively. There was a brief moment of controversy much later after the stoppage of the fight that Lemieux saying he could have gone on, and even some of his folks and his team suggesting the stoppage was premature. And I guess you can make the case that the stoppage didn't come when he was in trouble, but clearly David Lemieux was overmatched in this fight, and he was taking a huge amount of punishment, so it's kind of hard to complain. And more importantly, he didn't complain. My litmus test for a stoppage being inappropriate is when the fighter immediately complains. That doesn't mean it's a bad stoppage, but that's the first litmus test for me. If the fighter doesn't complain, then my feeling is at that moment, it was okay. And in my brief and not grandiose amateur career, only once I could say this was a fight stop where I was the victim among my several losses. And when the referee stopped the fight, I didn't complain because guess what? I knew that there was no point in continuing. Now, if I'd complained, somebody would have an argument to say, well, it was wrong, So just based on that, this stoppage I don't think was inappropriate. Now, for Gennady Golovkin, at this juncture, he's in a fascinating situation yet again because he has beaten David Lemieux. He is now waiting for the winner of November 21st fight between Canelo Alvarez and Miguel Cotto, neither of whom identify themselves truly as middleweights, even though that fight would be fought for the middleweight title, which Miguel Cotto owns. And I say that because that's the wiggle room about this whole thing as far as they're concerned. The whole world wants to see the winner of that fight Gennady Golovkin. And it would be a tremendously lucrative fight. I do expect Canelo and Cotto to be a very entertaining fight. And they will immediately be talking about catchweights to Gennady Golovkin. And I'm going to say right now, I'm not one that speaks out that catchweights are the worst thing on the planet. Sometimes it helps get a fight made. But if they want to fight Gennady Golovkin for the middleweight championship of the world, the winner of that fight, they should fight him with a 160-pound limit. They can feel free to come in at 155 or if they want, or 156. Come in wherever you want to come in, but don't tell him he has to come in at a lower weight. If you want the middleweight championship and you call you're going to fight for a middleweight title, that's the weight you should fight at. And I don't think he should be made to come down. We're all hoping for him to face the winner of that fight. I think that would be spectacular. He's in a position where the middleweight division is filled with very good fighters, but not great fighters. You know, we can tick them off, like David Lemieux, Peter Quillen, Daniel Jacobs, Andy Lee. You go right down the list. Hassan Endam, who was beaten by Lemieux and also by Quillen. Young Chris Eubanks, who's a good fighter. Billy Joe Sanders, who's a very good fighter. They're all very good. They're not great. And Golovkin's great. He's a really great fighter. And so but still, if you're a great fighter, like Marvin Hagler was, he was in his middleweight division. There were very good fighters. Probably a step above these guys now, but still a step below Marvin Hagler. So he beat all these guys, the Ham Shows and all the rest in the middleweight division. In addition, he had his big fights against the Four King type guys, Duran, Hearns, and Leonard, all who came up to fight him. And by the way, all those guys were not middleweights. They came to 160 to fight him. So, but where Hagler built his legacy before he could fight the Four Kings was beating all these good middleweights. So if those middleweights would step up and fight Gennady Golovkin, which they've been reticent to do at this point, Golovkin, even if he fought all those people, it would give us something to hang our hat on. But we certainly want to see him in against the winner of Canelo and Cotto. Now, on that card at Madison Square Garden, there was another fight that was heart-pounding in its action, featuring two really excellent guys and excellent smaller weight fighters. This is in the flyweight division. Roman Gonzalez taking on Brian Viloria. Now, Gonzalez is being thought of as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and he is that. And Brian Viloria, who is a former world champion, is a battler. He is a terrific fighter. And what these men created was a very, very exciting fight. Ultimately, it would be the Gonzalez power that would be too much for Brian Viloria. That and his volume of punching as well. And ultimately, he would send Viloria down in this fight. And Roman Gonzalez showing us that among those lightweight fighters, those fighters in the flyweight division and right around there, he's one of the most powerful that you could possibly see. And Brian Viloria, who's had a tremendous career, ultimately succumbed. The fight was stopped, and Gonzalez got the victory. Now, we've seen Roman Gonzalez now getting showcased on HBO, getting showcased and shown to the American public, and in fact, the worldwide stage as well. And there are big fights out there for him. In his own division, Juan Estrada, Giovanni Segura are really good fighters who he would create an action fight with. Dani Nietes, a Filipino fighter who is just below him, a veteran who's been champion forever in his light flyweight division. If he were to choose to come up in weight, if he could, he and Gonzalez would be a fantastic fight. And just above Gonzalez, Naoya Inoue is a terrific fighter. So there are matchups out there. And if he continues to be shown on television in these matchups, I think Roman Gonzalez will become one of the favorites among boxing fans. I think that's how good he is. That's how exciting he is. And certainly he showed that in his fight with Brian Viloria. So this weekend, those fights, in addition to the Cleverly Fanfara fight, which was held on Friday night, which was fantastic and was exciting, gave boxing a very good weekend of exciting boxing action. So we'll await anxiously to see how Gennady Golovkin moves forward and whether, in fact, he gets a mega fight with the winner of Canelo and Miguel Cotto. Al Bernstein for another Quick Hits.